Melyssa Ford crashes out on her co-host on the Joe Budden podcast.
I'm literally saying they're the same. Literally saying they're the same.
And all the men up here take accountability, but the one person never takes accountability. That's a woman. Where are we basing our judgment off of?
Are you talking about me? Y'all motherfuckers abuse the shit out of that phrase.
Okay.
Calm down with that.
Got you, man.
On the last episode of the Joe Budden podcast, Melyssa Ford looked completely fed up, and it led to an outburst the likes we have never seen from her before on camera. So this whole thing started when they were talking about accountability and Haley Bailey and the DDG situation with the live that he did, and he had his baby there, and Holly was like mad and upset. Well, anyway, the conversation eventually moves to people saying that women don't know how to apologize. Basically, the old stereotype of how a woman will never apologize and try to make the person that is asking for the apology look like the wrong person. That's a discussion for another day. Well, anyway, the cast starts to say, especially the male members of the cast, excluding Mark Lamont Hill, who has built a reputation of being a bit of a panderer, says that women don't know how to apologize. And Melyssa Ford and Flip start getting into a weird interaction. And then Flip takes things to the next level by saying, we have a woman up here who doesn't know how to apologize. Now, Flip is not the only one who thinks that on the podcast. Ice thinks that, Joe thinks that, Ish thinks that, Parks thinks that. Now, there's a series of reasons why that is. There's a couple of public instances. For example, Eddie Griffin's situation. Remember when Melyssa Ford said she was at some type of industry party and Eddie Griffin was there high with two dogs.
Like, I remember all the way back to like 2007, I did this Black Poker Stars, invitational or something. It was every comedian. It was everybody from Faison Love, Kevin Hart, right before Soul Food. Like it was Soul Plane. Sorry, it was every single one of them. Wood Harris, Mekhi Phifer was there too. Nelly. It was really big, and he comes in with these two German shepherds. It was like the strangest thing. Like he came to the thing with two German shepherds.
And she forgot to remember that she was actually remembering Cat Williams was that comedian.
Bring up some details on they pass and that I can slang out on. So, I had two German shepherds. Where the you find it? Can you answer that for me, Joe? Where the did you find this? Where you find this little?
Then there was the Cameron situation where she hinted that Cameron might have been at an underage or a house that houses underage sex workers. There's also been a series of other things, especially with that whole Ish situation where she was posting pictures of Ish and her on the balcony looking like they were dating, calling Ish the father of her chihuahua, Daisy. So there was a bunch of incidents that Flip was referring to. And I think what really set Melyssa Ford off was just that she feels like, hey man, the rest of the cast never takes accountability for the things that they do. And she's largely talking about guys like Joe. I think Joe is always moving the goalposts when he does an argument, but they never call him out, or at least they try to call him out, and Joe is able to get away with it. So the reason I think this boiled over from both perspectives is Flip he likes to call out the hypocrisy of the other cast members of the show. For example, when Imani and Flip get into it, Imani often criticizes Flip for trying to espouse narratives that he doesn't like. And he even gets really angry, he gets upset, he calls him out on air. But when Joe does the same thing, the energy isn't there. And that is largely representative of the whole cast, excluding Ish, who holds Joe the most accountable of anyone in the room. And Melyssa Ford, let's be honest, she hates Flip's guts. Now, it's not outward. I mean, Flip called her a fake and a phony, made her walk off set, said whatever they say about you in the industry is true. You are a opportunist. Melyssa Ford is not gonna forget that, even if she pretends to. And I think Flip saying any type of criticism is gonna set her off. And this was a crazy crash out. And we also have to talk about the aspect of Mark Lamont Hill's presence. Ever since Mark Lamont Hill has arrived, Melyssa Ford has been emboldened to talk back. She knows now when she speaks, someone is gonna always agree with her. And she didn't always have that before. And I probably believe this is a large reason why Joe wanted Mark Lamont Hill there. Yes, he's great at the political stuff. And even, I know some people say he's not, but I mean, even if you hate his political talking points, at least you're doing some level of engagement with it. The big one is Melyssa Ford now has someone to combat everybody on the show with. Even when she's wrong, Melyssa Ford is right in the eyes of Mark Lamont Hill. And maybe she deserves that, because there was a while when she was on the podcast that no one was holding her down. But let me know what you think. Do you believe Melyssa Ford was right? Do you feel like members of the cast are immature and often try to blame femininity for the same thing that masculinity also does? It's an interesting discussion, and as much as people say they hate the gender wars on the podcast, I truly believe a lot of people love it. Like, they like that stuff because everybody has an opinion on it, and it gets real crazy. I also wanted to wrap up this video by talking about an interview that the podcast just did with Bernice Burgos. And I must say, it was actually, it first started off a little bit rocky, but, you know, I can't come. Bernice is obviously beautiful. Like, she looks great on camera. She looks amazing. One of the few ladies in the industry, when they do an interview, she looks better in real life, like, as far as on camera. Like, sometimes you see girls in the video, and then when they do an interview, you're like, oh, that's her. You know, she really don't look like that in the video. She looked great, stunning as ever, one of the top baddies in the game. But it was bird talk. It was high class bird talk. You know, one moment in the podcast, she was like, she was asked by Melyssa Ford, hey, what's romantic to you? And homegirl literally said, like, oh, when I'm at the grocery store, if I tell you I'm at the grocery store, send me $500. That's what being romantic looks like. And on top of this, Joe just looked happy to be in the room with Bernice. He was happy to try to prove to her, I'm valuable now, Bernice. There was a point in the podcast where he says, you know, I dropped $15K at the strip club. And Bernice was like, oh, wow, look at you, buddy. And you could tell this was one of the biggest moments of Joe's life. Seriously. I'm saying, like, he was very proud of himself, because there was probably a day in his life where Bernice Burgos simply could not entertain him as a result of his bank account and the limits to which it could go in comparison to people like, I don't know, Drake, or even guys like Quavo and so on and so forth. But it actually got saved in large part to Ish. I thought Ish did a great job of trying to challenge Bernice Burgos where he could, talking about how he only gave Holly like $140 when he was at the club. That was great content. I must say, he saved it. I also noticed big tension between Flip and Bernice. It largely seemed like Bernice, I'm not like she looked down on Flip. And you know, anytime you look down on Flip, he's going to try to get it back, which is exactly what happened. Flip was essentially saying, oh, I don't care about none of that. Anything you say, I don't really care about none of that. And that's what happened. So overall, I had to give the Bernice Burgos interview a thumbs up. It was a lot better as it went on. And you know I'm always willing to kind of shoot things down if they're not good. But it started off really bad. It started off like the Ruby Rose interview. But I do think Bernice Burgos has hit the ceiling. Like, she's not good at speaking. And it kind of made me, I felt a bit sad by Bernice. And it's just kind of like a general theory I have, that these super fine women, they have men who probably are worth hundreds of millions of dollars or in that category. And those men, while they have unlimited resources, it comes at a cost Like, those guys be the ones telling you, oh, don't do that. Yo, you can't do that. Nah, man. Yo, you want to do this type of stuff? Nah. So these women are really never themselves in front of the public. And you could see when Bernice was on that podcast, she really wasn't herself. She wasn't being open. It was very much, shell. I got to present as pretty because who knows who might be watching this. Drake himself could be watching this. And that's what it came off as. But let me know what you think. If you saw the Bernice Burgos interview, did you enjoy it? I liked the other people who have been on the show who were quote unquote baddies. I'm talking about people like Tied Up Holly, Mo, and that Shanty chick. I thought they were better than her just because they seemed down, and also I don't think they were carrying themselves like they were better than anyone in the room. And I felt like Bernice was kind of carrying herself that way. I could be wrong. Alright, yo, that's my video for now. Remember to let me know what you think about Melyssa Ford crashing out on Queenzflip. And also let me know what you think about the Bernice Burgos interview. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.